All right, Grand Rising. This is a Straight Talk morning show on the Straight Talk Network. My name is Andre Hill, your host, and we have our co-host, the chairman of United Aboriginal American Republic, Terrence Lake, up in Detroit, Michigan. How you doing, Chairman?
Oh, Grand Rising, everyone. I'm doing fine. I feel good, beautiful day, a little on the warm side, but I'm not complaining, you know. But summer is here and just trying to enjoy every day.
Yeah, well, I'm hot. I'm down in South Florida near Miami right now, so um, it's beautiful down here, but it's hot.
Yeah, you in the fire.
Yeah, man. Also, our other co-host
Yes, late up in the
from the young generation of the '80s. You a Generation X, Y, or Z?
they got a new name for us now. Now they call us Xennials.
Hey,
Now,
well, all right. Well, and our engineer Andre Hill Jr. Hey, man, what's the weather like up in Tampa?
man, it's I'm not, I didn't grow up here in Florida, but I hear, you know, everything Tampa and South is all considered South Florida. Long story short, it's just as hot up there as it is where you at.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah, well, anyway, it's I'm down here in a training program with UAAR. All of you folks out there listening, we're building an institution for your children and your grandchildren and your great grandchildren. Because I don't know if you noticed, but you're having to babysit, finance, worry, miss out on sleep, miss out on vacation because of these children, and because they don't have a infrastructure of economics, social, nothing. We left them absolutely nothing. So I'm in a training program to help improve this situation. And so you need to go on our site at uaarnation.org, sign up with us, let us know you're interested, what field you're interested in, and we will bring you in and get you started with our program. So usually I can read from the topics of the show, but Andre Jr., he's going to read what we're talking about today.
all right. So, all right, 1 second here, family. We kind of So I'm gonna spit it off like you usually do. So on the Straight Talk Network show, Andre Hill Sr. has a warning for family members with star seeds in the family. You know, the ones who are always questioning everything. They seem weird and operate on a different frequency or drumbeat. Yes, you are in jeopardy if you don't make certain adjustments. Also, the Jesus factor. Yeah, I know we done touched on that one a few times. We're gonna hit it again today. Let us examine the letter J and its origins, and also the original prototype that the character Jesus was curated from. We will expand on the true purpose of a Christ being as explained in Lucifer's Revenge. Tune in or stay lost.
Hey, there you have it. So we're going to go ahead and talk about if you're a family member of a star seed, all of the star seeds are beginning to gravitate towards a collective of other star seeds because our mission and purpose on this planet is to help resurrect it from the brink of ignorance, divide and conquer, and slavery. That's our pure purpose. That's our one purpose. And at this point in time, we are gathering because there's strength in numbers. So here's what's going on. They cannot compromise the star seeds because the star seeds, if they were going to be compromised, they would already be dead or ineffective. But so what they're doing now is they're putting the star seeds up on a situation room board and all of their family members. Now, So they can't get to the star seed directly, but then they start affecting their close family members. So this warning to you, and you know, most of all the families have one star seed somewhere in their family. So this is something that they may not be in a position to tell you. But if you're lying, cheating, stealing, committing adultery, they're going to attack you to get to that star seed. So you have to recognize the fact that you have a star seed in the family. He or she was always the oddball, and they are starting to gravitate to this collective so that we star seeds can demonstrate by example to show the rest of the humans on the planet how how to escape this negative energy field that has corrupted, invaded our planet. And it works under the auspices of white supremacy, but the original low frequency beings that enslaved us, they were black. They were melanated people and they fell from grace and lost the privilege. So white supremacy is a misnomer. It's an illusion. Caucasian people uses white supremacy for their protection. The ones that are ignorant, the ones that don't know any better. So they will try to attack and manipulate and do whatever they can to distract star seeds from coming together as a collective to initiate and implement a system to break this negative matrix down that have enslaved our planet for many years. Cameron, I know you've been on this planet a few years longer than I have. You've seen this happening to families, and you start wondering, what's going on. Have you seen any evidence of family members being attacked to get to star seeds?
Not directly, I can't say. Only in my case, you know, trying to turn my book into a motion picture, I've been attacked and abused, misused, several times. And I know it's that force that doesn't want certain information out there because we're trying to get to a level in society where we're all Christ-like beings, but there are some people don't want that because we're not there, and it's like a race, and there's so much competition. So certain groups are trying to hold other groups down because they really don't feel worthy that they could win that race. And showing that the star seeds with this younger generation, they're just coming out of everywhere. And like you say, they've been around for a long time, but you see it more prevalent today with this younger generation. They're off the chain. They're just great, little geniuses. But we just don't have a financial support yet, to give everybody this opportunity so we can grow as a human society. But right now, it's, a battle between each other and that certain group that are trying to hold everybody down because they want to be the first ones to conquer Mars or conquer Venus or what have you. There's a lot of competition out there. You got a lot of different space organizations in the United States where, go back in the 70s, they had groups of people that formed space colonies, where they went to school, certain school, they were trained certain ways that as though they were living in space. And we didn't know anything about this, but it did slip up in some article I read back in the day, back in the 70s when I got this information. And then I found out even in my area, there are, groups of colonized or space colony groups that are training and taking positions, getting titles. So when they live in space, they're more organized. And we're not, privy to that, even though it was exposed in the paper. But it's a lot going on. And like I say, back in the 70s, if they were doing it then, can you imagine where they're at now?
Absolutely. Hey, well, you know, I think we're definitely at that point now. I still believe, just like the extraterrestrials can shut down nuclear warheads, they can blow up Elon Musk's rocket engines. I just don't think I wouldn't allow this sort of ignorance by a phenotype that was only created 6,000 years ago to go out into space. It's an automatic bad virus, and if I was in charge, good thing or not, I would exterminate any of these entities that's trying to leave this planet and take this poison somewhere else in the universe. But anyway, get in. Hey, Junior, what's your experience with family members or friends, associates being attacked, behind a movement awakening humans up?
Um, what I have observed is this, and this may take the conversation. I'm not going to say in a different direction, but it just kind of digs deeper into it. Even among the star seeds, or let's say, those of us from, at least my generation or around my generation who are, enlightened, from source. And so in other words, receiving, they purpose, they divine purpose and mission, straight from the source. I mean, even among the collectives of conscious people, they're trying to infiltrate those circles now. You feel me? You got some entities coming in on that end, and um, I know attack, it's a strong word, but you know, encroach on, attack, agitate, all of those terms can apply here. But yeah, I've seen it among my peers coming from not only their family, but again, also other quote unquote conscious people who want to, let's say, gatekeep certain information. And they have the same jealousy factor that we see among religious groups. Like when the deacon got a Mercedes Benz and that. So I'm trying to figure out if he gonna be trying to get all the women over there and such and such. Same concept, same concept. And there's for lack of a better word, a separation and revelation happening to reveal who are the true star seeds, the true enlightened ones. So it's a process of attrition that I'm seeing going on here, and it looks like it's necessary, to be quite honest with you, right? It looks like nature and the Most High are doing exactly what they know how to do to reveal the truth, reveal the light, and keep life going forward. So it's like I said, I've seen some stuff here and there, but my point is, it's not stopping nothing. Those agitators, those attackers, those encroachers, they ain't stopping nothing. This is going forward. I mean, that I can see.
Yeah. So, so the critical point here is, what if you have a star seed in your family, they understand that this is a do or die situation. So, and once again, this is a process that happens in the period of revelation. So the average star seed, they are laser focused on connecting, and they're constantly asking the Most High, "What is my purpose?" And so part of what this show is all about is, we can recognize that you're a star seed, and based on certain astrological alignments, we can help guide you as to what your purpose is. But the one thing I'm doing for their family members in this process, this is a critical time. And so, if you are a family member of one of these star seeds, when I say they are laser focused, they understand if they fail this mission, they have to come back and repeat the course at a higher degree of difficulty. And so they're not going to stop because you are committing a crime or doing something, to jeopardize yourself, just because, they don't care. They know that their soul it will be in jeopardy of repeating this course if they don't follow through on this mission. So I'm just helping the star seeds out. I thought this was a critical time. I'm seeing it happen right now with the star seeds that are joining our organization. Their family members are being attacked under suspicion. If when they put you your star seed relative on the board in the situation room to analyze how they can toward any movement to reject this demonic Luciferian agenda, they're looking for means to cause distractions. They will spend, and money is not an option because for this white supremacy illusion, they will print money all day long to try to buy relatives, to set them up in traps, and do all these things to try to drain the resources of the family. But that starseed don't care. They're gonna stay focused, and when they connect with us or any other organization on the planet that's working towards helping them accomplish their mission, they're gonna keep moving to accomplish their mission. And just because you're breaking laws and didn't want to listen, their mentality is that you ostracize them from the family anyway. So I'm just, this is a preemptive track to help our star seeds, but also those family members. Once that star seed completes their mission, you're going to benefit from it spiritually, even though you ostracize them because they didn't want to go to church and follow your program or join your sorority or your fraternity or whatever craziness that Lucifer set up to divide us as a species. They're not going to stop. They're going to be laser focused and relentless on complete their mission because they know to repeat this course at a high degree of difficulty. All they have to do is reflect back on all the things they went through as a child, how painful that was, especially when they was recognized as an oddball. So this is a warning to the family members. If you have a star seed in your family, clean up your act because they're going to vibrate to movements like ours to complete the mission and the purpose of acting as the salvation of the humans on this planet. It's a natural phenomenon throughout the universe. This reoccurs over and over in every civilization in the universe. You know, I'm hopefully this segment will help those people that and please family members, don't join that Luciferian agenda to shut them down. I promise you, it will be painful. Hey, Chairman, will the laws of karma come in? Don't it come in extra hard when you transgress against star seeds? We talked about that last week.
I would feel so, the chosen ones, uh, you're stopping the creator's natural process.
There you go.
A star seed is here for a purpose to enlighten its brothers and sisters. If you're trying to stop God's process, like you say, sometimes our extraterrestrial brothers shoot down rockets and other things, and turn missiles off in certain areas because they know it's against their children. We're their children. We're the descendants. So, you got to watch who you're messing with. You shouldn't mess with nobody, but certain people, there's a price to pay.
Amen. So, Chairman, that's a good perspective I think, we get confused with money, position, material possessions, edifying our own selves. And this is just a public service announcement for those family members. That's a bad decision. Do not join with the Luciferian agenda to hurt your relative because they're different, because they have a mission and a purpose far beyond your comprehension. So when they come at you and offer you money to sell out your cousin, your brother, your sister, your uncle, your father, your nephew, whatever the case might be, say, hey man, it's better for me to burn in hell than to accept this money. So this is like I said, a public service announcement, and this Starseed gathering is happening. If you are a Starseed and you still, you're not sure. I once said I used to declare myself as a Starseed supervisor, but that puts me on a higher plane, and that is not so. I'm on the same level. So I refer to myself now as a Starseed activator. And that puts us all on the same. There are no star seeds greater or lesser than the other. So if you are a star seed, and whatever trial and tribulation that you chose when you came to this planet, we all have different reasons, different purposes, with different experiences, so that when we come together, we can expand on all those different experiences, because all the other humans have similar experiences, and so we have to demonstrate by example that how we're going to overcome those challenges brought to you here on this planet, and that's what those star seeds are being done. So by all means, if everybody knows who the star seed are, and what I recommend, if you ignored them or not, you should contribute to helping them get back up on their feet, because most of the time when they chose this path, they have a difficult time assimilating to this Luciferian system. It's evil, and they're not going to assimilate to it. So they're going to be down and out. So don't try to ignore them and say, well, I hope they just die. It's going to be worse for everybody. So try to lift them up, try to understand, accept the reality that this system is a demonic system, and you can tell it's a demonic system by the fruit that it's bearing. Look at who's in the White House. Look at what they're doing. Look at the Congress. Look at what is the benefits of the fruit that's created by these demons. So evidently that starseed now is gaining value. You need to get in behind them just because they didn't want to go along with your madness. So this is a public service announcement, and to those star seeds, hey, we got the plan for you. Go to UAARnation.org and sign up with us and let us know if you are a family member of a star seed and they're not getting access to this broadcast. Tell them, say, hey man, I know you've been down and out, but there's some people with UAAR that can help resurrect you, because we bought into we invested in some bad stock, the stock of the United States of corporate America, white supremacy, dumbass shit. so hey, Julian, before we go on to the next topic, any other words that you want to give to the star seeds or family members of the star seeds?
Family members. If you don't understand what your peculiar or enlightened family member is going through, just don't get in the way of them. Don't hinder them. Find a way. There is a way that you can support them, and like Pops was saying, and typically their mission is to serve and help everybody, so that includes you, right?
Right.
But there is typically, and what I find based on my own experience, you've got there's a lane, there's an opportunity to either support them, assist them, collaborate with them in any kind of way, in some kind of way. It's there. You just have to be willing to find it and initiate it. I know it is, you know, especially if you are religious, and you know, I say on this show all the time, I don't ban nobody religion, but what I am gonna do is tell you the truth about your religion, right? Also, I don't bash anybody's religion, but I will tell you the truth about it. If your religion is suggesting that you disassociate and or worse, try to hinder your family member that is conscious or considered a star seed. Like I said, just save yourself the trouble. Save yourself the trouble. Because again, you know, like Cherubin and Pops are saying, that person's mission on this planet is to serve the entire collective and the planet itself. Yeah, you don't want to get in the way of that. That's the bottom line. So I landed right there.
Hey.
Very well spoken.
Yeah, so once again, family members of Starseed, clean up your act. We're in Revelations, which means to reveal. So all of the dirt is the same. Everything in darkness shall soon come to light. All of the dirt is getting ready to be exposed. You know, the governments, the religions, the social constructs of divide and conquer. All this, like these preachers, like T.D. Jakes, all of them are being exposed now. You know, so understand this. Clean up your act. If you're sleeping around with a married man or a married woman, cut off the relationship. Go to that married man or married woman and say, "Look, I'm in jeopardy by messing with you, and it's a breach of contract. If you have an agreement with somebody that says you are exclusive to them, and they break that contract, and you are aware of that contract, you are in jeopardy of violating the natural laws of the universe. If you lie, cheat, or steal, same thing. That demon set up these traps intentionally to snare you so he can get you to, or he or she can get you in a compromising position to control your soul so that you will not bring light to their ignorance. Plain and simple. All right. So if you got a star seed in your family, they get ready to bring smoke to everybody that's compromising themselves. They getting ready to bring the smoke. So don't mess with the star seed. I promise you, don't mess with the star seed, and clean up your act because you're gonna either go to jail or get shot by or get into a bad situation to compromise your soul, your children's soul, and everybody associated with it. So in this period of revelation, it's time for everybody to clean up their act and understand money is a temporary illusion. Material possessions, they will rust in the weather, and the thieves will come and take them at night. Y'all know them biblical sayings. So, hey man, it's time to clean up the act, because if the Agent Orange wasn't a wake up call for you, you got a serious mental problem. Serious. All right. So, hey, we're gonna go into the next section. Hey, Chairman, you got any closing words on that topic before we do the J letter?
No, we've said enough, like trying to open people's minds so they can see the light, the real light, because I always look at it as if it's for everybody, it's from God. If it's not for everybody, it's not from God. It's not saying that it's bad, but we know godly things benefit everybody. God doesn't discriminate.
All right. Hey, so this next topic is also has to do with revelation, which means to reveal. Everything in darkness shall soon come to light. So a lot of our people, including me at one point, got hypnotized or caught up by the spell of deception about what a Christ being is. And so I know in uncertain terms that a Christ being is a servant of the Most High for the purpose of the species, in this case, the humans of planet Earth. He or she are here to serve you, humans. They are not to be worshiped, prayed to, or anointed, or edified. They are to be respected. And if you got any common sense, you will listen to a Christ being. But they are required, if you start to anoint them and give credit to them for the salvation of this planet, they will tell you, or they should tell you, hey, I'm just an agent, I'm boots on the ground. Send your prayers or your acknowledgments to the guardians of the Most High, because they're making it happen. I'm telling you, any Christ being that's on the physical plane, they need a protection from the Most High to survive the ignorance on this planet. I'm a witness. So I'm gonna pass the ball over to Andre Jr. because in our book Lucifer's Revenge, he detailed the construct of the Jesus Christ entity. He detailed it step by step, how long it took, how they formed it. I'm gonna deal with the real simple part of it. The letter J was introduced to. Read my lips. The letter J was introduced to the alphabet 500 years ago. Okay, so it is believed, based on speculation, that the Christ that they call Jesus was here 2,000 years ago. That's a 1,500-year discrepancy. So his name couldn't have been Jesus. So the trick was you are giving energy to a frequency that was created by Lucifer, because Lucifer wanted to be a god, he wanted to be worshipped, and he wanted to totally corrupt this planet. But I'm gonna let my son, he's a scholar, and he can go into more details about this. Hey man, go ahead and take it from there.
Um, hold on, where we need to start? So what we talking about?
Council of Nasir, all that stuff, good stuff.
Well, so what we talking about is the character Jesus Christ as he's popularly known, right?
Yes.
All right. So and it's a lot of places to start from, but I'm gonna find one. So when when we think about Jesus in general, in today's time, most people are combating now the image of Jesus. In other words, what Jesus looked like. And that's a good place to start, right? Because it is, I just got to say it straightforward. Making Jesus Christ, the biblical character, a Caucasian man, and it's important to note this, a Caucasian man is deliberate psychological warfare. Say it again. Listen, I'm not going to bash your religion, but I'm going to tell you the truth about it. Making Jesus Christ a Caucasian man, and especially as a rendering or a depiction of a particular person that existed in a period of time. In other words, a particular Roman official's son or relative, making that image of Jesus look like this character at the time, that's psychological warfare. So now let's open that up a bit. What would insinuate, or let's say incentivize someone to paint or let's say or recreate the concept of Jesus in somebody's particular image? Well, the frequency of what we call Jesus Christ, that's not a new That's not a new frequency and or spiritual concept. December 25th, being born of a virgin, the attributes of Jesus in the Bible, that's not a literal description and attribute of the character. That is a ritualistic setup for that particular frequency. Now, mind you, you ain't got to be born of no virgin to be no Christ-like being, right? That's not how that works. Being Christ-like is just tapping into spirit frequency of the Most High and following the golden rules of the universe. You have people doing you do on others. Like Pop say all the time, love your fellow human being. It just be a, it's simple. Just a simple morals, or even, let's say this, the entire nation of Kemet at the time was producing Christ-like society by following all the laws of Ma'at. Right? Those 42 laws of Ma'at were designed to create that Christ-like frequency within everybody in their society. Right? But going back to how Jesus was created, the image Jesus Christ and the name Jesus Christ, how that was created. Let's just get into the history of it. So the Roman Catholic Church, after they had been influenced heavily by Greek society, they learned how to come up with deities. They learned how to come up with deities, and they learned how to do it on astrological timetables, which is important because at the time, what we call astrology now was elaborate timekeeping back then. And timekeeping is relative to your circadian rhythms, your circle weekly rhythms, your circle monthly rhythms, and your circle annual rhythms. In other words, your everyday harmony and resonance with nature, every day, every week, every month, every year. That is how you stay in sync with this ecosystem and with nature overall. And that's what astrology essentially was. So, we got so good at this over time that we know how to map and coordinate certain frequencies at certain times. So Roman Catholic nation learned this from Greece. Now, Greece learned this from Egypt, aka Kemet. All right, give me your little context here so it makes sense. Kemet, again, that whole nation having a doctrine that produced Christ-like beings in their entire society was on a high frequency in their heyday, right? The whole society, and also they knew how to create not deities or gods. They were curating what we call the Neteru, which is a reflection of nature. I'm sorry, let me say it the other way around. The reflection of human attributes in natural form, meaning, you would have a Neteru of the sun, a Neteru of the winds, a Neteru of any aspect of nature, right? That was just our way of connecting psychologically with our environment in the Most High, right? It wasn't about worshiping anything or putting anything on a pedestal. In other words, idolization, to where you worship in a tree or worship in a monument and giving your power to some inanimate object. That's not how it worked back then, right? But Greeks that were learning, that was sending some of their best students down into Kemet, were learning these concepts to the best of their ability, right? Because again, Greece at the time was a bit of a, what can we call it? a diverse nation at the time, diverse of primarily different types of Caucasian peoples, especially after the Etruscans got. I don't know what happened to them. We don't know what happened to the Etruscans. The Etruscans were the original melanated people of the region at that time, up around Greece. But either way, so when they start sending scholars, Greek scholars, into Kemet to learn their sciences and spirituality, again, they were learning that the best they could based on, you know, their societal norms and how they view nature from their perspective, which was typically a rough relationship. Let me make that plain. Greece, Europe altogether, in comparison to equatorial places like places in Africa, was relatively barren and harsh. So their relationship with nature wasn't all that good, right? It wasn't like they had fertile ground and nature around them supported them to where they would appreciate it. So them trying to go into Kemet and learn how to resonate with nature, you imagine how that would go coming from their perspective. Anyway, so they learned to the best of their ability how to start curating nectarus for themselves, because you know, the master teachers down in Kemet said, listen, you can't come up with a nectaru that looks like us, because then you just gonna start worshiping us, because we know how y'all think. Y'all need to create something in the image of yourselves. And so they did that. They came up with Greek mythology. That's when they came up with Greek mythology. So then you realize, you notice most Greek gods are plagiarized or copies of everybody else's gods, but especially Kemet's gods or Kemet's nectarus. So now coming back to Jesus, around the time when there was a lot of invading on Kemet. In other words, Kemet was in its decline. And you had a lot of immigrants coming in from Europe. You also had a lot of immigrants coming in from Mesopotamia, the Middle East, basically, right? And they start kind of infiltrating the school systems or the teaching systems, the spiritual systems of science, the sciences, and start trying to, you know, insert their concepts into it. Kemet was able to keep some things intact because, you know, the priesthoods there, you know, they were pretty much holding the keys on the information. So it was only so much infiltration at the time. But if you study it deeply, you begin to see the transition. But when Greece was sending scholars down, they sent a particular guy named Arius. They sent I forget I don't know if he had a first or a last name. I know his name was Arius. And he was down there learning. And he was also a consultant to the new emerging Roman power. And so at the time when he was down there, they were creating a new composite god in Kemet that was going to include some levels of Greek influence, some levels of Arab influence, and indigenous Kemetic influence. In other words, they were creating this composite deity that would reflect the new populations of Kemet at the time, which again was Europeans, Aboriginal Africans, and Arabs all at the same time. That was in Kemet's heyday. I'm sorry, in Kemet's decline. That's what the population of the area became. It was a combination of a few different groups. They came up with this composite god. His name was Serapis Christus. Now, if you go search the name Serapis Christus, you take a look at it, and you take a look at the statues. Don't look too different to Jesus, or too different from Zeus, or too different from that Caucasian phenotype. And there's a reason they curated them in that fashion. Because again, your perception of, let's say, a god of nature is your self-identity. It's your confidence and in reality. I'm saying it's your confidence in reality. Whatever your perception is, it becomes your reality. So back then, especially, it was important to create a deity, something that you would worship and or look up to, and it was important that it looked like you, because otherwise, you would go and revere something outside of you or something other than you as being greater than you, and that is counter to your self-preservation, right? So when they came up with this composite god, they were suggesting that Rome worshiped this god, right? It was suggesting that, and at some point, again, there's a lot of history to this, right? We're talking history and history that spanned over hundreds and a couple thousand years, but at some point they scrapped that project. At some point they said, well, now you know what, this particular guy ain't giving us the returns on investment that we needed to. In other words, it's not good enough for us as the Roman Catholic elite in government to control our population. That's essentially what they made him up for, right? So they say he's not good enough. So they said, as a matter of fact, since we got some new information, we've got some scholars that came back and they're telling us that not only do you need to make a God that reflects you and your phenotype, you also need to create them with a storyline that resonates with the astrological age, right? So at this time when they were creating these characters, we were heavy in the age of or we were on the cusp. I'm sorry, we were on the cusp of the age of Pisces. That they also learned in Kemet, right? So in other words, as they were going along, they're upgrading their information on how this works, right? So they revised the whole plan. So then they curate a character that is going to be not only have the image of someone of Roman authority, but particularly the narrative of him has to reflect the age of Pisces, which means spiritual, let's say, spiritual enlightenment, but also hidden enemies within your spiritual collective. Hidden enemies in your spiritual collective. Is that not what Jesus went through? You feel me? Not only that, Pisces deals a lot with sacrificing. In other words, the whole energy is the concept of Pisces is, hey, this is your last grade before you graduate and go to the next level. And so you've got to lay it all on the line in order to do that, right? This is why the crucifixion part becomes a part of the narrative. So in other words, Jesus needed to be sacrificed, and that needs to become part of the narrative so that it resonates with the season, the astrological season that everybody's in. So now an astrological season is the collective conscious state of practically everybody on the planet at the time. In other words, the collective conscious frequency of everybody. So so when they come up with this character Jesus, they at the same time they are still trying to rectify different stories of the Bible. In other words, they're trying to fit him into the upgraded version of Judaism, which is Christianity. Because let's just sidestep for a moment. Jesus in Judaism is not the same Jesus in Christianity. Two different characters. You go ask a Jewish person, was Jesus the Messiah, and what were his dealings, what was his life, and what was his origins? You're going to get a different story than that of if you ask a Christian theologian. But here's the thing: you don't have Christianity without having Judaism. The first 5 books of the Bible are the Torah. Genesis is included in the Torah. If you don't have Genesis, you don't have the rest of the Bible. Nothing else happens. But so if this, so how do you have the original or the, yeah, we just gonna run with that. How are you going to have the original concept of this religion not support the chapter 2 of the religion? How are you going to do that? Didn't matter. The Roman Catholic Church said, well, listen, we need to control our people. We need to control our people. So we're going to still run with this narrative. We're going to find a way to fit this new God, Jesus, that we made up into this narrative. And so they did that. And not only did they do it initially, in other words, they didn't just write it once. They spent 550 years, and they had approximately, I know, at least 10 different council convenings in Turkey to reboot, to update, and rebrand the image and the attributes of Jesus so that he continues to fit a particular narrative for the sake of promoting it to the population, so that you would continue to believe in it. So in other words, I know a lot of people know about the Council of Nicaea. That was just one of them. As a matter of fact, I think there were, in the context of all of the council convenings that happened, I think there was 2 or 3 councils at Nicaea. Then you had 2 or 3 councils with Constantinople. And every time they were convening, they were talking about what are going to be the attributes of Jesus. Is Jesus going to be the Son of God and also a separate entity at the same time, or is he all the same entity? These are the kind of discussions that were happening in these convenings. They were trying to figure out exactly what was going to be the most effective image and narrative of Jesus to promote to the masses, so they can then, you know, further your worshiping style. In other words, what you were going to believe in. But eventually they settled on this. Not only is there going to be Jesus is going to be the Son of God, and he's going to be God at the same time. Also, there's going to be a third component called the Holy Ghost, which is the spirit or the essence of Jesus and God. And you as an individual person can take on or be possessed by this Holy Ghost spirit. So again, they sat down. It was groups of men from Europe sat down and curated these concepts. And it's documented. You don't have to believe me. You do not have to believe me. You can go look it up. To make it very simple on you, can go look up what were all of the councils of Rome that were curating and adjusting the narrative of the character Jesus Christ. It'll pop up for you. In 2025. You can find that if you want to go search for it. It's definitely there, right? But in a very loose nutshell, to be quite honest, because me trying to cover that whole thing in a span of 20 minutes max. There's a lot that I did not get to touch on, but that is the overall gist of it. That's the overall gist of how they came up with the character Jesus. If you want the thorough breakdown, again, go get our book, Lucifer's Revenge, at lucifersrevenge.net. Go into very great detail on it. It can become a tedious read because it's very detailed, but you get all of the names of every council. You get the happenings of Greece and Rome sending their scholars down into Kemet to learn how to come up with Netrus / which for them are gods. In other words, again, let me come back to that. Ancient Kemites / Egyptians did not worship their natural. They didn't have gods. They had images that would reflect their resonance in nature. Romans and Greeks had gods. They had someone they had to look up to, and they also feared. That's important to know, that they feared their gods. In other words, they felt like if they did not worship and give reverence to their deities, then there would be a consequence. And that type of relationship, that type of spiritual relationship, has filtered over into all religions that kind of stem from that today. In other words, people say it all the time, I'm God fearing. You don't need to be God fearing. You need to be God knowing and God understanding, God respecting, but you don't need to be God fearing. In other words, I mean, you as a parent, I mean, I understand that, you want your child to respect you, but do you truly want your child to fear you? No, you don't. You want your child to love you, and you love your child back. I mean, you want your child to respect you when they're at a certain age, so they don't, act out and get themselves into some kind of harm, right? You want them to respect your authority in that context. But once they're grown and they know how to take care of themselves, you don't want your child to fear you, right? But so, you got to ask yourself, why would you think the Most High would ask you or require you to fear it in order to have a relationship with it? Now, all right, so I'm checking the time. I'm gonna land the plane right there. All right.
Very well said, man. Hey, Chairman, is this sounding logical to you?
Oh, very logical, especially when you earlier talked about the letter J, has only been in existence for 500 years. And then when you do your research on the Bible, you know, bronze skin, hair like sheep's wool, there's no Caucasian with hair like sheep's wool. He'd have to be interracially mixed, and he would be on the border side of being a black person, you know. So there's a lot, that people got to open up their mind and see the reality. Some things just don't fit, you know. You can't tell me that Jesus had stringy hair, was a Caucasian. No, you can't tell me that. And I'm not being derogatory, not trying to put anything down. I'm going by what it said in the oldest book of the Bible. Hair like sheep wool, skin bronze. Who does that description refer to? The Negroid.
Yes, sir. So, Chairman, what I did pick up from my son, and listen, out of the mouths of babes, I'm still learning, and just because he's my son, I learn things from him as well. So what I did pick up in this narrative was that it was a means of control. How are we going to control the people using this psych ops, and also giving them spiritual fortitude for Caucasians? It was for them and building their design. And so when their demonic ways continued, it spilled over into slavery. They say, well, we can control the slaves with this as well. And that's what they did. And they forced the slave. This is the only book you can read. You don't read any other books. And because we understand the critical part of astrology, we're gonna demonize it, because if they learn astrology, they'll understand all of the keys to the formula of balance in the universe. So we are just, our purpose on this show is to restore balance. And I want you older people, you great grandparents, you grandparents, you parents, to think about this. What my son just explained was the true history of humans on planet Earth. What do you want? Who do you want to teach your children? Someone like my son and our Aboriginal Nation Collective, where we're regaining our true history. We were the first people in the Americas. It wasn't the Mongoloid natives. Definitely wasn't Caucasians from Europe. We were the first people. So we have an extensive history. We are regaining that history. And so you have a choice. Do you want to continue with the likes of T.D. Jakes, Creflo Dollar, all of these prosperity preachers, or do you want to teach your children some facts so that they can elevate to a higher frequency to control the narrative in their life, not give control to a recessive gene culture that was created 6,600 years ago? You know what? That is, if that is idiotic, it's madness. It's insanity. So, hey, all of you people from our generation, me and the chairman, you guys really need to get in behind us. Go to our UAAR page, nation.org page. Become a friends of UAAR. Just type in, I'm interested in becoming a friend to make donations to our organization because we are building an economic system to pull your children out of the matrix. And we can't do it with just conversation. And we're not prosperity preachers where we're going to drive around in Rolls Royces and live in mansions and buy jets and all that crap. If we have that, that means everybody shares in the mansions or the yachts and all that. We all the people. There's no one person going to be controlling all of that. So that's the society that we're creating. It's a society of balance. It's an advanced society of spirituality. And believe me, right now they are cooking up a new con game through the likes of Stephen Greer to hook you in with the dark side of UFOs versus us making contact with the high frequency beings, the ones that can shut this whole system down in a twinkling of an eye. You know, join us, buy our books. Chairman, tell them how to buy your book.
Okay, title of the book, God's Child. You can get this book through Amazon or Barnes and Noble, or you can get it through my website, which is www.godschildren.biz. And this book will just give you a lot of inspiration, and it has good moments where you'll laugh, you'll cry, and you'll be in awe. And it's an easy read, very easy to read. So get this book and help support my turning this book into a motion picture, because this book was written for that purpose, to bring all of life on planet Earth together as all of God's children. That's why the title God's Child, that's everyone's title. Thank you.
All right. So and of course, go out and get you a copy of Lucifer's Revenge. It's a workbook. It's a playbook. It's a manual. It's an instructional manual on how we're going to reclaim the planet and evict these demons that want to continue to enslave, murder children, starve children. These people got to go. And you're not going to get rid of them praying to a false entity of Jesus Christ. But you need to understand Christ beings are here to help us as servants, not to be worshiped and prayed to. You know, and the narrative of their sake, they're giving us a formula for us to save ourselves. They ain't gonna come wave no magic wand and just save you because you go to church and pay tithes. That's straight BS. So join us at uarnation.org. Get involved with us. We need a lot of you elders, you know, in our generation, me and the chairman's generation, you can't get involved. You got blood pressure, heart disease, can't walk, all these things. But you can buy our book, Lucifer's Revenge, or the chairman's book. That helps that organization. And you can become friends of UAAR, which is a nation for your children, your grandchildren, because you know your children are jacked up and they have no clue what these demons are planning for them. They don't have the critical thinking skills. They don't have the history that we gathered from the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, and the 70s. They don't know how to do this. We got to do it. And if you're going to sit back and say, I got mine, you need to get this, your soul will be challenged for the next 10 lifetimes. I promise you. So, hey, let's get with the program. I shouldn't have to preach too hard because Agent Orange, he's going to try to preserve white supremacy because that's his master. He's following the script just like an actor. So we can stop that. We can shut that movement down and start moving in the direction other African nations, Caribbean nations, all the melanated people, the original humans that were created by the Most High, not the ones that were created by Lucifer 6,000 years ago, are taking charge of their planet. And we're going to create a new utopia so that them Caucasian people, when they pass from this life, they can reincarnate into a melanated body, and then they don't have to be hating, or jealous. That's the narrative. That's the agenda. Hey, man, go ahead and close us out.
Yep, to 5 past the hour. I think it's been a good show. This is the Straight Talk Network show. As always, we love y'all. Peace. We'll see you next week.
Conversation, peace.
From hot Miami.